What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. Today we are dogfighting the mighty F-15 Eagle in the MiG-29, my beloved MiG-29, which is soon coming to DCS World as a full fidelity module. And today we are up against a real NATO fighter pilot that does not fly the F-15 in real life, but flies another very powerful 4th generation fighter, which in his own words will beat a flanker with thrust vectoring. So you can take that as you will. Feel free to guess what that is in the comments below. But today he is flying the mighty F-15 in DCS World, which, if I'm entirely honest, I never considered to be much of a competition for myself or the MiG-29. But boy oh boy was I mistaken. This is going to be a death match, and you know what they say, in the hands of a capable pilot, and yada yada yada. So sit back and see what happens.
We have 2 good engine starts. You're clear to disconnect the headset. We'll see you on the left with the pin. Thanks a lot.
Alright, so here we go into the merge. We start off with a single circle fight. Just trying to gain a little bit of height here to trade off my airspeed. I know I started that with a little too much airspeed, so I'm just seeing what he does. He stays underneath, and I maintain the height a little bit before dropping in on top of him. At this point, I don't really know exactly where the MiG-29 would shine against the F-15, but in my head, I know that anything slow speed and high alpha, although the F-15 can pull high alpha, it definitely won't be able to sustain the energy as anywhere near as well as the MiG-29, at least in theory. So that is sort of what I'm thinking, although I'm also thinking maybe I could outrate him. And we get into this vertical fight here, so I'm just trying to judge and see what's going on, because I've never actually fought an F-15 in the MiG-29. And if I'm honest, I never really considered the F-15 to be much of a threat for me. I have flown against it a very, very long time ago, flown by somebody else, and I think I was flying something else as well. Can't really remember it being much of a challenge, but as it turns out, in this fight, it certainly was. And I'm trying to lock him up here, and I don't know why I can't lock him up. I definitely did have the right buttons bound to everything. I'm not really sure 100%. Either way, it didn't really matter because, well, I wouldn't have been able to take that shot anyway. So I'm just judging, seeing what happens here, and it's clear that the F-15 definitely has a speed advantage. I can tell that from here. I'm pretty slow speed, you can tell, especially when you hear that beeper. That tells me I'm pretty much at very, very high alpha, or critical alpha for the airplane. In the MiG-29, I can pull through that system. It's called the SOS in Russian, or anti-stall prevention system. The pilot can basically pull through that with a stick physically, and there is a button that you can bound in the controls. It's the Y key. I'm using a force feedback stick, which is absolutely awesome. I'm using FFBeast. It's absolutely incredible. Unfortunately, that particular feature of pulling through with the force feedback, pulling through the limiter, isn't implemented, so I still have to use, I just use the paddle switch similar to an F-18 in order to get around that. I think once the full fidelity module MiG-29 comes out, I think that will almost certainly have to be, or be implemented with force feedback, whereby you can basically pull through the limitation. At this point, you can see he's extended that. I overshot. He could have reversed into me and done a rolling scissors, but he didn't. I think that was the right thing to do. I think in another jet, maybe the F-18 versus MiG-29, I think it would definitely been a good idea to pull straight back into me, but he didn't. He extends that. I stay high and then come in to meet him, but he comes up, meets me, and I think that was the right thing to do. Again, we're kind of denying me all opportunities, all the advantages of the MiG-29, especially any kind of slow speed, high alpha stuff, maintaining the energy. He is just totally denying that, and he's taking me into a vertical fight, which I've now figured out is not a good place to be in the MiG-29 versus an F-15 after a first series of loops at the beginning of this duel. And now I'm kind of thinking, okay, how do I get around this? Because this isn't great. You can see he definitely has higher speed. I'm staying inside his turning circle, so I'm denying him any opportunities of getting in behind me, but at the same time, as the hillside's getting close, I kind of see it. I know I'm going to be okay. So clear that just about, which is good. But I know that I'm just not going to be able to defeat him by outrating him or rating even with him. in what is effectively a two circles fight in the vertical. So I'm trying to take slight obliques everywhere just to try and change it up a little bit and create some angles. You can see my energy state here, 640 kph down the bottom, and so I just take an oblique. He kind of matches me. Rita is telling me that I have 1,500 kilos left in the tanks. Still enough for now, but as you can see, I'm not really gaining any kind of advantage. If anything, I think we're getting into what could be a fairly neutral fight here at this point. And he's totally denied me the opportunity to get into a rolling scissors. If you remember our match against MiG-29 versus the F-16, where he did, and we ended up in that crazy twirl, this is definitely much more of a chess game. This is all about patience, managing your speed, having a game plan, and just trying to eke out every little advantage of the jet, especially here as you're rating. You know, every minuscule, tiny little movement of the stick is very important. And obviously, you know, in real life, a real fighter pilot will also have G-forces to telling him exactly what sort of energy state he's in. He was also going to have 3 dimensions, which obviously in some way could be fixed with a VR headset, but in this case, both of us are using 2D screens, so it's a little bit different. And at this point, I think he does something very strange. He kind of doesn't turn into me, goes into the vertical, turns away from me, gives me an angle to point at him, and we'll break this down and attack you in a second just to see what happened, but I think it was a little bit strange. So 1 trigger shot and 1 kill. Alright, so let's see what actually happened on Trackir. We merged here. I'm pretty high speed, so I decided to take a slight oblique, just trying to trade in a little bit of that energy for my rating speed, effectively. And I see he's staying low, so I'm staying high. Neither of us want to pull into each other for a headshot, because that's a bit of a gamble for both of us. So I try and maintain that height a little bit before I drop in on top of him. And that gives him a perfect opportunity to drag me into a vertical fight straight away, which is where I think, at least with these fuel states, as I found out, the MiG-29 I think definitely has a disadvantage. I think the F-15 in a vertical fight, maybe not in a horizontal two-circle, but certainly in a vertical two-circle fight, it just seems like the F-15 can gain more of an advantage. And again, I don't know if it would be a little bit different with, you know, equal fuel states, but the F-15 here is at 70%, the MiG-29 is 100%, sorry, 100% for the MiG-29, 70% for the F-15, and we've just done that based on flight time because the MiG-29 runs out of fuel so damn quickly. So what you'll notice here is maintaining speed. The F-15 is maintaining the speed. If you can see, I'm actually turning inside his turning circle at lower speed. I'm just basically denying him the opportunity to gain an advantage by trying to close the distance as much as I can, and maybe trying to get a little bit of a snapshot as he passes through my HUD, but that never really happens for me. So instead, what ends up being the case is that I'm kind of low speed and he's a lot higher energy state, and I'm just basically trying to deny him the opportunity. And as you can see, it's sort of equal, but the F-15 is definitely rating me, whereas I'm just staying inside his turning circle. The radius of my circles is very small compared to his. But what the downside now of that is that the F-15 now has a hell of a lot more energy. I need to try and extend down at the bottom because I have so little energy to go into the vertical. I decided to take an oblique, and this was my game plan, is to try and drag him into a rolling scissors, which is sort of what actually happens here. I think if we just rewind this back just for a second, I think the F-15 at this point could have rolled wings level and gone straight back up into the vertical fight, where I think at least it could be neutral, or potentially after a lot of time of executing that game plan perfectly, maybe the F-15 would get into an advantageous position. But no, he doesn't. He sort of does take the bait, where we end up in this twirl, sort of almost like a rolling scissors as we head down. He's rating. I've got my nose pointed down, and because I need that gravity to help me along. And as I do the overshoot here, the F-15 could have reversed, right? But he's done the right thing. I think in some other jets like the F-15, the best thing you could have done at this point is just reverse. As you know, I'm going to overshoot here. He could reverse back into me and get into rolling scissors, but he does the right thing, because that's not where you want to be in an F-15, I think. So he actually extends and he drags me into this kind of two-circle fight, especially if you can get into a vertical two-circle is where, you know, he would definitely have an advantage. I take an oblique because I'm trying to get an angle I knew that I overshot on that one, so as I start to drop in on top of him, he comes up to meet me, and I think that was the right thing to do because there's nothing else he could have really done. And now look what happens. He has turned this what could have been a rolling scissors. He's denied me the opportunity to get into a rolling scissors, and he's trying his best to get that back into a vertical fight, which is what he's doing now. And that's not where I want to be in the MiG-29, so he's doing that really well. So at this point you can see I am not exactly high speed at the bottom, and the F-15 has managed to do that. Now, could I have done something else here to try and reverse, to try and get into a one circle? I don't know, maybe. You can comment down below if you think I could have, but it's quite difficult, I think, where you're in this situation. And again, see what happens here is the F-15's got higher airspeed, has got more of an advantage as I just clear the hillside there. I knew it was coming. I saw the clearance, so that was managed pretty well. And I think we're kind of back to a neutral fight here. Again, I'm taking obliques here just to try and create some kind of angles, because I don't like being in a pure vertical fight, especially a two-circle vertical fight with the F-15 there. It's my first time fighting the F-15 actually in a very, very long time, so I was really not expecting it to be much of a capable airplane. I have fought somebody else in the F-15 a very long time ago and thought it was very easy to kill, so I was prepared to basically gun him down very quickly. And as it turns out, in the hands of a capable pilot, as they say, well, look, I mean, we are total parity here, 100%, just totally neutral here, back to totally neutral. And I was really not expecting that, because I was expecting the MiG-29 to absolutely dominate. Again, with, you know, 100% fuel in the F-15 probably would be a little bit different, but in this particular case, it just shows that, you know, the F-15 is definitely a capable jet in the hands of a capable pilot. And I think I fly the MiG-29 pretty well. I think I can extract a fair amount out of it. And just look how neutral this is. Totally neutral. Now, could I have done something to try and get that out of a two-circle into a one-circle? It's pretty difficult when you're so low to the ground, I think. So that's why I try and take a bit of an oblique. I just want to create something. I just want to change it up a little bit and just, you know, create a bit of a closing angle, offset the circles. But he actually kind of matches me and also goes well, now he goes into the vertical, but this is where I think he's made a critical mistake. So, and I don't know if he was just basically getting a little bit bored of the fact that we were so neutral, so he was trying to create an opportunity for a head-on shot, but which is possible, or maybe he got distracted, maybe somebody rang the doorbell, who knows. Either way, I definitely wouldn't say that this is a way of judging a real fighter pilot based on a DCS fun match, but nonetheless, we need to go over this. So at this point, just before this happened, the F-15 was, you know, he had this lift vector pointing in towards me, which is just right. You know, we were sort of neutral in this position, but for whatever reason, he rolls wings level, right? He goes wings level and goes into the vertical here, okay? That in itself, okay, fine. I mean, totally fine. Maybe he wants to extend a little bit and then drop down in on top of me, right? So from his angle, that would be a left turn to swoop in on top of me. And, you know, maybe he thinks I'm low energy state here. But what does he do? He actually turns his lift vector further and further away from me in the opposite direction. I mean, just look where he's pointing. Completely the opposite direction. He's actually pointing away from me. Which I honestly don't know why he did that, because all that did was it made me, gave me an opportunity to basically just point my nose at him, because he extended so far away from me that I just came in and basically pressed the trigger once the whole fight and shut him out of the sky, right? So, I mean, maybe there's a chance he just got frustrated that we were so neutral the entire time, and he just wanted to extend to create a head-on shot opportunity, just so at least, you know, take a gamble and have a chance at shooting me down, because maybe he's getting frustrated because he wasn't getting anywhere, or at least, I mean, he was neutral the entire time, almost the entire time. So I don't know why he did this, I'll be honest, but in my opinion that definitely was a mistake. I think he should have come in on the vertical and maybe dropped in on top of me, but he went the opposite way. So once again, as I mentioned in my previous video, just because a real fighter pilot's flying in DCS for a myriad of reasons does not mean that he is going to always win, and it also doesn't mean that he doesn't make mistakes. It certainly doesn't mean that I'm not making mistakes. I mean, I've probably made a million mistakes in this video as well, but that was, I think, was just a very obvious one at the end. And again, I just want to reiterate the fact that that is just no way to judge a real fighter pilot's abilities based on a DCS video, especially considering he's flying an airplane which is completely foreign to him, and the airplane he flies in real life is absolutely nothing like the F-15. So, take it as you will, but this is basically what happened.